What unfolds when a titan of Hollywood, a man synonymous with cinematic greatness, sits down for a routine interview only to be ambushed by a host determined to ignite a personal war on live television? Prepare yourself, because you are about to witness one of the most volatile broadcast moments in modern history, where the legendary Al Pacino was pushed into a fiery exchange that culminated in him abandoning the set mid-air. But before we pull back the curtain on this shocking confrontation, be sure to join our community by hitting that subscribe button and weigh in below. What are your thoughts on celebrity interviews gone wrong? Believe me, this is a story you need to see to believe, because the drama that plays out is absolutely staggering. It was meant to be a standard promotional stop on The View for Al Pacino, the icon behind The Godfather, Scarface, and a lifetime of other masterpieces. He was there to discuss his newest film. Now in his 80s, the veteran actor was a figure defined by his fierce passion, but equally by his unwavering professionalism. Having navigated thousands of interviews across a career spanning decades, he moved between profound cinematic discourse and lighthearted talk show banter with an effortless grace. But on this specific morning, the air in the studio was charged with something else, something different from the second he stepped on stage. The typical pre-show pleasantries felt hollow, and a sharp undercurrent of tension, an invisible friction, put the seasoned actor on immediate alert. Joy Behar, co-host of The View, infamous for her biting wit and political jabs, had seemingly decided this interview would be anything but typical. Her agenda was clear from the very first volley. "So, Al," Joy began, leaning in with a smile that was more predatory than pleasant, "let's get to your new film. But before that, I have to ask about your past. Looking back, do you carry any regret for glorifying such violence in films like Scarface? I mean, shouldn't Hollywood bear some responsibility to our society?" Pacino, visibly blindsided by the aggressive opening salvo, took a beat. His eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly, a signal of coiled intensity that any fan of his work would instantly recognize. "Well, Joy, I think that's a rather heavily weighted question to lead with," he countered, his voice steady but laced with steel. "My belief has always been that cinema is an exploration of the human condition, its darkness included. We are storytellers, not moral guardians." "But you must see how these portrayals affect young, impressionable minds," Joy shot back, completely steamrolling his articulate defense. "Think about how many kids wanted to be Tony Montana. Don't you feel even a sliver of accountability for that?" A wave of uncomfort washed over the other hosts. Their uneasy glances said it all. This was not the interview anyone had signed up for. Certainly not from the opening bell. Whoopi Goldberg tried to steer the conversation to safer waters, asking about his acting methods. But Joy sliced through her attempt. "No, no, let the man answer," Joy insisted, dismissing her colleague with a flick of her hand. "This is important, Al. You've earned millions from these violent roles. Don't you believe you owe the public an explanation?" Pacino's jaw locked. "I owe the public nothing but an honest performance," he stated, his legendary intensity finally beginning to surface. "Every character I've inhabited, I've done so with absolute respect and dedication. If you wish to have a philosophical discussion on art and its societal impact, I am more than willing. But let's not pretend this is that." "And what do you mean by that?" Joy parried, her voice climbing in pitch. "I mean," Pacino replied, his tone now sharp and direct, "that you seem far more interested in manufacturing a conflict than in having a genuine conversation. I've been in this industry for over 50 years. I can distinguish between an interview and an inquisition." The tension in the studio was now a physical presence. Camera operators shifted uncertainly, and the other hosts looked as if they wished the floor would swallow them whole. But Joy Behar was only warming up. "Oh, so I'm interrogating you now?" she scoffed, a laugh devoid of any warmth. "I'm asking valid questions about your career. If you're too fragile to handle that, perhaps this business isn't for you anymore." A deafening silence fell over the studio. Al Pacino held Joy's gaze for a long, heavy moment, and in that silence, everyone knew the ground had just shifted. This was no longer just an awkward interview. This was about to become a defining moment. "Listen, lady," Pacino began, his voice low but resonating with the authority of his entire career. "I've been fielding questions about my work since before you ever had a job in television. But there is a vast chasm between asking a question and showing blatant disrespect."
Pacino didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His restraint had the weight of a slammed door. The studio felt smaller, as though the walls themselves were leaning in to eavesdrop. Joy opened her mouth for another verbal strike, but Pacino lifted a hand, not rudely, not theatrically, just enough to tilt the balance of the moment. "I came here to talk about a film," he said, calm as a blade, "and instead I find myself in a debate staged for spectacle rather than sincerity. That isn't why I work. It isn't why I act. And it certainly isn't why I sit in these chairs." His words hung in the air like smoke from an extinguished match. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Joy's face, but she pressed forward. "Al, you're reading too much into this. It's an interview, not a trap," he answered, eyebrows rising in a slow, deliberate arc. A murmur rippled through the live audience, not quite gasps, more like the collective intake of breath taken when a magician reveals the wrong card and somehow makes it right anyway. Wookmy leaned back, arms folded, giving Pacino the kind of stare people reserve for fireworks that just might land too close. Sunny shifted her pards around as though trying to build a small fortress out of them. "Let me be very clear," Pacino continued. "I respect conversation, I respect critique, but I don't participate in ambush theater." Joy leaned in. "So you're saying I'm ambushing you?" "I'm saying," Pacino replied, each word crisp enough to frost the table, "that I came here for dialogue, and you came here for a duel." That line hit the room like a dropped spotlight. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate before moving again. The producer appeared behind the glass, waving frantic signals, the universal semaphore for "Please, for the love of everything, get this back on track." But the moment had its own gravity now. It wasn't letting go. Joy's smile thinned to a wire, but Pacino lifted a mug of water in front of him, examined it as though it were a strange artifact from another world, then set it back down. "I expected questions about the film, the craft, the story, the work, the things that matter. If you wanted a tribunal, you should have warned me. I would have brought a lawyer and a sandwich." A few audience members laughed, unsure if they were allowed to. Joy's posture stiffened, and for a heartbeat it seemed she might fire back again. But Pacino rose, not abruptly, not dramatically, just decisively, like a man stepping out of a shadow he never agreed to stand in. "I think we're done," he said. Wookie sat up. "Al, you sure?" He nodded once gently. "Life is short, Whoopi, and I prefer to spend mine in rooms with open windows." He took a step back from the table. The studio froze. Joy opened her mouth, maybe to soften, maybe to counter, maybe to reclaim the narrative, but Pacino was already turning toward the wings, every bit the veteran performer leaving a stage he had outgrown in the span of 5 minutes. And as he walked out, the air seemed to recalibrate itself around his absence, like a storm realizing it had lost its thunder.